Coming up on CHGO Cubs, presented by Toyota, the Cubs are packing up, heading to Japan, and Matt Shaw is going. Plus, we can dream of a Tucker extension. And can Nico exceed projections in 2025? It is CHGO Cubs arriving at Gate B next. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast presented by our friends at Toyota. It is Tuesday, March 11th, which means, Cody Delmendo, we are 1 week away from the start of the Cubs 2025 season. Luke Stuckmeyer, Cody Delmendo with you, talking Cubs baseball for the next hour. We have Joey running the ones and twos for us today. And we have big news to start. We're going to talk about it. Yes, Matt Shaw is going to Japan.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. And I said it last night that there is no reason for Matt Shaw to not go to Japan at this point. No setbacks, no restrictions. Been playing all the last week. He's been playing. He played well yesterday, 2 hits yesterday. If you are healthy, you should go to Japan. And if you are projected to be the starting third baseman for the Chicago Cubs in 2025, you should be going to Japan. So
if you have the money, you should be going to Japan. We don't have the money. Gary's asking, we are not going to Japan.
Yeah, no.
But look for live shows right here.
Oh, yeah.
That's the rumor. Look for live shows. We'll be up with the rest of the sickos.
At 8 a.m.
Watching Cubs baseball. So it means we'll, commuting at about 4 a.m. It happens every once in a while. Listen, I'm going to admit that I'm surprised Matt Shaw is going. Not as surprised as I would have been 2 weeks ago. Because like you said, it's been trending that way. He's been playing well. It doesn't seem like there's any restriction on him. And I think the Cubs did want to really reward him with this as part of, hey, this is the beginning of your Cubs career.
Sure.
And it's they can learn something as a group by going together over to Japan, I believe. Now, I don't know how much value I put into it, but I think there's something to be said for going over there as a group and building that right from the beginning as opposed to staying back. I didn't think it was going to happen. Bruce Levine definitely didn't think it was going to happen. And I did wonder at the end, are they just trying to stick it to Bruce? Are the Cubs is this all just to stick it to poor Bruce Levine?
Isn't he like the longest tenured beat writer?
Oh, he's got to be now that, Bruce Miles is gone. I think Bruce Miles probably would have had him beaten, but I'm not sure.
Sully's kind of like in and out, right? He's not there every day.
Yeah, Sully is more of a features big shot.
Who will occasionally say some things about Tom that I appreciate at times.
Well, and Bruce is connected to Bruce is connected to Marquis.
Yeah.
So
anyway.
Yes. I'm surprised. I'm surprised because it was an oblique.
Sure.
And obliques, as we know, can derail a guy, say a Suzuki, for a month. And it healed. They kept telling us it was no big deal. And even when they told us it was no big deal and he was going to start working out again and taking swings, I still didn't think it was going to happen. But we got down to the deadline, and today Craig Counsell says Matt Shaw is going. Yeah. So that's the most surprising thing. The thought before it was, and this is what Patrick Mooney was talking about yesterday in The Athletic, was if Shaw is not going, the likely guy to go might be Kevin Alcantara. Because what happens if Pete Crow-Armstrong runs into a wall at 110 miles an hour like he does sometimes, and then you don't have somebody to play center field? Well, we'd already been told that Gage Workman was going, and we'd already been told that Brujan was going. So I guess I think my answer now is that Brujan would play center field if there was a necessary fill in for the Cubs in one of these two games. Matty Lee has told us also going for the Cubs, Jordan Wicks, Ben Brown, and boy, not surprising after some of the outings, Brad Keller, a non-roster invitee. Not going, Kevin Alcantara and Keegan Thompson. So once Shaw was going, that meant Alcantara wasn't going. I don't know how much you want to make out of the rest of it because the Cubs don't have to decide the 26-man roster stuff, as Bruce pointed out on Twitter too. You don't have to decide that till the earliest, March 17th. This has a separate set of rules going to Japan.
Don't they get like 31 guys they can take?
They get extra guys they can take, and there's 40-man rules that are altered here too because at the moment Shaw wasn't on the 40-man roster. We'll see how it all plays out, but this isn't necessarily the team that will start the season stateside when they come back and play the Diamondbacks. We hope Nico Hoerner is ready by then, but for now, it's a pretty exciting team to go watch. I'm excited for Matt Shaw to get to start his Cubs career in Japan. Like, that's a pretty cool thing to say when you say, I began my major league career by playing the Dodgers, the defending champs, in Japan.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Another point to this whole Shaw thing that I've been hammering home on is that if Nico Hoerner wasn't going, then there's another reason why I feel like Matt Shaw should be going. Because if you don't have your Gold Glove second baseman that's been as consistent as you could have asked for the last handful of years, you already have a hole at second. And sure, John Birdie's he probably will be fine. He'll, at least defensively, who knows if he contributes offensively in these 2 games in Japan. But, these 2 games in Japan matter, man. They do matter, and they count as 2 home games for the Cubs. So I get it. It's just 2 games. Will it define the season? Probably not. Now, if they miss the playoffs by a game,
you're going to be angry.
In
many ways.
If they miss the playoffs by a game and perhaps they lose by 1 run or something in this Japan series, and it's like, I'm not going to say it's the reason they missed the playoffs probably, but it will be one that we look back on and say, why? Like, maybe we missed the playoffs because you probably blew this game somehow, some way, or maybe your offense wasn't that good. And it doesn't define the season, but my point is you take the best players. You take the best players who are supposed to be part of your team in 2025. That's my whole point. I'm not even asking Matt Shaw to play both games. I'm asking him to at least play one. So I'm just happy that he's going, and he will likely be in that lineup for at least 1 game. And whatever happens. To me, it's all about taking the best players who give you the best chance to win. That I would not have liked to see an opening day lineup that had John Birdie at second and Gage Workman at third. As good as Gage Workman has played in the spring, it's still just the spring. All right. Matt Shaw, your top prospect. He's shown in the spring and in his minor league career that he is a top 20 prospect in baseball for a reason. So I'm excited to see what he can do. I'm not expecting too much, but the Cubs are at least putting the best players out there whenever they go to face this gauntlet Dodgers team.
Here's what I would say about the games in Japan. First of all, if the Cubs miss the playoffs by 1 game, Cody will have 10 other games that you'll be more mad about than anything that was played in Japan.
For sure.
You will have forgotten Japan so much, you will remember the game where they had an 8-0 lead and blew it against the Rays. Mm-hmm. That's the you know what I mean? Like, we'll have plenty. If they don't make the playoffs, there will be so many reasons to be angry at this franchise if you're a Cubs fan.
Yes.
That you don't even have to worry about Japan. It won't be a factor. The games do count. I hope they don't really matter when you're looking at the division race. I hope the Cubs are able to win the division by enough games that you're not even thinking about those games from Japan. You probably won't have to. This making the playoffs and winning the division are going to depend on things like Kyle Tucker having a big season, Seiya Suzuki staying healthy as well, the pitching staff staying healthy, the bullpen bouncing back. Can Michael Busch be the guy again over at first base? Can Matt Shaw answer the question at third? All of those things will have a much bigger impact on the Cubs making the postseason than 2 games in Japan.
Absolutely.
That said, I want to see the best players play. I don't necessarily want them to start all of the main guys in game one and then say, well, we're in Japan. I want to make sure everybody had the opportunity to get a piece of this action. And so I got so-and-so. I don't think that's what they're going to do, but I would like to see, pitching is going to be different because you're going into a season where you got to make sure these arms are healthy. But as far as position players, you're saying Matt Shaw. I guess I could live with the decision of Shaw starting one game and Workman starting the other, only because Workman's been so great right now. But if you've deemed that Matt Shaw is your starter, I don't know if I necessarily need to go that route. I just want the best guys to play, right?
Yeah,
and we already don't have Nico at second base.
Right. I think the overarching point that I've been trying to make is that if Hoerner was healthy, I would have been a little bit more conservative on the Shaw decision based off how the spring has gone, the oblique, all of that. But because Nico is not healthy, I just don't want to go to Japan and have John Birdie playing second and Gage Workman playing third. If the games didn't matter, if these were 2 exhibition games,
sure,
then whatever. I wouldn't have cared who went. I've been like, all right, go have fun. Give us, grow the game. But these games matter, so I know that I'm probably being a little too serious about it, but at the same time, this is an opportunity to really kind of put yourself on the national stage and make a statement like, "Hey, we're going to be good this year." You go to Japan and at least win one game against them. I think that kind of, it doesn't set the tone or anything, but you're showing the national stage like, "Hey, we're a team you should watch out for this year." If you go and beat this Dodgers team that's coming off a World Series that just added even more and they look like a gauntlet. They're projected to win 100 games.
It's an international spotlight.
Yeah.
That's why you go and you play your best players and you're not just going out there with a spring training roster. The games matter.
That's fair too.
And it's an international spotlight. If you want to grow Cubs popularity worldwide, go ahead and beat the Dodgers. Don't get run over by a truck 16-0 twice,
Yeah.
That's the last thing you want to see. Show that you can play with the best of the best, the team that's stockpiling players like, they're going to have to hold on to them forever.
Yeah.
What the Dodgers have done in this offseason and the last is what every team dreams for their own franchise. So now take what has been a good offseason for the Chicago Cubs. I'm not going to say it's a great one, but a pretty good one. And try to compete with them. Show up. Let these guys go out and get good at bats. Let Matt Shaw start his major league debut with a couple of knocks out there. Let Kyle Tucker start off being a Cub by maybe hitting a home run in Japan.
Yeah.
That's what I'd like to see. And if Gage Workman gets a pinch hit home run, I'm okay with that too.
That would be a story to tell.
But mostly I'd like to see, the one thing I definitely want to see is Shota pitch well. Yeah. I want to see Shota and Seiya have really good games. I want them to go back to their country and for them to be proud of the way they played specifically, not just the team, but the way they played specifically in these 2 games. And it's difficult because baseball is a game of failure. But Japan is full of pride, right? And the country is built around that pride and respecting your elders and the people that came before you. So I want them to have it. Those 2 players specifically, I want to have the best experience. I want them to be able to showcase their country to their teammates, but I want them to be able to showcase their talents to the rest of the world while their home country is really focused in on them.
And on its face, it's just a really interesting, unique scenario for a baseball season. You play day in and day out. Outside of the All-Star break, how often do you play 2 games and then you get those 4, 5, 6 days off between that? So if you're a baseball hitter, I'm not trying to oversell this, but it is interesting that you play really well for 2 games. You get to live in that a little bit. And if you pitch poorly or if you play poorly, you get to sit in that for a little bit. Obviously, you get to turn the page, but it is just the whole thing is just a unique scenario.
Yeah. Well, guys that are going over there now, 31 players, aren't necessarily going to be on the Cubs the rest of the season. That's just the way they might be sporadically moved in throughout the season, but this is a different situation. Yes, they have to make a decision on who's going to be active before the games, but once you take these 31 guys over there, The decision that gets, once these guys get on the plane, that's the group of players the Cubs are taking to Japan. In 2 days, they can't be like, you know what, we changed our mind and we're sending Alcantara because so-and-so didn't have a good flight or came down with the flu or whatever. So this is the group that's going to go after they play today's game. We're going to talk more about Nico's future. We know he's not going on the trip. And we're going to talk about Kyle Tucker and an article that was written that I'm not sure. I think it's going to give a little false hope to some people. That's my opinion. But first, a word from our sponsors. The March Radness sales event is going on now at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake. That means the latest vehicles you've been looking for are now priced with game-winning savings, like 0% financing for 60 months, $0 down, 0 payments for 90 days, plus 0 hidden fees on select new Chevy models. Or check out the selection of over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. With one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories, you're sure to find the perfect vehicle for you. And one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, they're able to keep their prices competitive, so you know you get a great deal. Plus, you get raised price promise, which lets you shop confidently because a guarantee of no add-ons, no hidden fees, no gimmicks, meaning the price you see is the price you pay. You don't have to worry about price changing, stressful negotiation, or tricks. The people at Ray Chevrolet want to help you get the right vehicle at the right price. So go see for yourself. Visit our partner this March at their convenient location right on Route 12 in Fox Lake, also known as Rand Road in Arlington Heights. Don't miss out on their March Radness sales event going on all month long for 0% financing on select new Chevy models. Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or at raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive.
Life's been a little crazy, Luke. All right. One thing that helps me unwind, Cornbread Hemp's CBD gummies. All right. In my Waymo on my way to the airport, coming back from Arizona. I don't like to fly. Not a big flying guy. So sometimes you got to find a way to relax. Mm-hmm. And those CBD gummies certainly help me. All right. If you've been looking for a natural way to relieve aches and discomfort, the CBD gummies from Cornbread Hemp are formulated to work with your body, not against it. I'm not as young as I once was. Neither is Luke. Not an old joke, but just
neither is Joey.
Just saying, and neither is Joey. But we care a lot about maintaining our physical and mental wellness. All right, Cornbread Hemp's CBD gummies are a huge piece of my wellness plan. If you haven't tried it, it's everything under the sun to give you a peace of mind. It sounds like it's time for you to try Cornbread Hemp's CBD gummies if you're not feeling like that right now, all right? They're made to help you feel better, whether it's stress, discomfort, or just needing a little relaxation. Sometimes, I've been stressed out about the Cubs all off season. I've been stressed out about, are the Cubs going to pay Kyle Tucker whatever it takes? These CBD gummies help me kind of relax and just get over it for a couple hours. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just need it. This organization stresses me out. All right. So all I can say is if you have struggles with stress and failure to relax, maybe you struggle going to sleep, it will help you out. All right. So right now they're offering CHGO listeners 30% off their first order. All right, just visit cornbreadhemp.com/CHGO and use promo code CHGO at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/CHGO and use code CHGO for 30% off your first order. This is the good life, Luke.
Yeah, it is. A couple shout outs to some of our regular sickos, Gary Ross, pointing out, please hit the like button for us. We appreciate that. Please.
We got 80 people watching.
And Becky likes. Says, Luke, Cody, all caps, you guys are the best. Well, thank you.
That. Thank you, Becky.
We appreciate that. Hi to everybody in the live YouTube chat. It's the best way to enjoy the CHGO experience. It's what we do, is to get in the live chat, do the show with us, right?
Yeah.
But also want to remind everybody of the Die Hard deal going on right now. The Free Agent Frenzy Die Hard deal, $36 for the first year right now. It's a tremendous price. It comes with the Die Hard card. It comes with the discounts on the merch. It comes with the discounts on the events and takeovers that we have.
Free t-shirt.
It comes with a free t-shirt. It comes with access to all the written content we have and the newsletters.
You sign up. You don't even have to get your t-shirt right away, but I did hint that we will be dropping new Cubs merch.
New merch.
Soon. So you can wait until the new merch comes out. You can get the diehard membership now. Wait to get that T-shirt, and then get whatever shirt that you like that we're going to drop with the 2025 collection, which, in my personal opinion, is awesome. So
plus $36. While we know $36 is a lot of money, $36 is also a nice way to support us if you can, and treat somebody to being a Chicago sports nut for an entire year. And the shirt, like, guys, T-shirts can cost $36 these days. So you're getting all the other stuff basically with it. And the way I look at it is this. We're in a competition right now with the other networks at ALLCITY. And yesterday is when this deal started. And we are ahead of Philly, and we are ahead of Denver.
In some cases, doubled them up yesterday.
We doubled them up yesterday, but it's an all-week deal, okay? We do not want to fall behind sports fans in Denver and Philly. I don't want to hear about the city of brotherly love and their ridiculous statue towards a fake figure who was in a movie. It's ludicrous, okay? I don't want to hear that Philly's a better sports town. I don't want to hear that Denver's a better sports town. They pretty much have the Broncos and the Nuggets. That's it.
Yeah, no more Dante Bichette going on there.
Please stop. Please stop. And please help us make sure we triple up these other towns.
Okay.
Because we know Chicago sports fans are way more diehard, way more sicko than anybody else out there.
Especially the people in this chat. They're a bunch of
digress.
sickos. For sure. You're all a bunch of sickos, and we appreciate you. So, anyway.
Bob Loblaw is waiting for that free shirt. He's going to get that.
He said he's sitting on it. I think he just hasn't utilized.
He hasn't opened it up yet. Maybe he's saving it for opening day.
He's waiting for the Cubs, the new Cubs merch to drop, because I believe he's the one who asked about it last week.
Is the St. Patty's Day swag out now?
Yeah,
that's out. So that's some of the new swag. But the baseball stuff is coming as well. Before the break, we were talking about Matt Shaw is going to Japan, and Ben Brown is going to Japan, and Jordan Wicks is going to Japan. Keller's going to Japan. Then people were talking about, well, Contra is not. And listen, I'm a little disappointed for him that he's not going, but other guys right now are more critical. I'm not sure which of the other prospects will be the first. Like, let's assume that because Shaw has made the trip to Japan, that Shaw is your opening day third baseman, and he's going to make the opening day roster. Not shocking, but because of the injury, not a guarantee. Who's the next guy that's going to make that next step, right? Like, who's the guy that's going to get the next call up and really be here for a significant chunk of time? Javier Assad starting the season on the injured list.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's Cade Horton. No, obviously. But is it Alcantara? Is Alcantara the guy that's most likely to be the next guy up, especially with Owen Casey still not knowing where we're going there?
Yeah.
Still shut down. Triantos, Gary Ross thinks Triantos.
I think if we're using Assad, his injured list, him going on the injured list to start the year, I think we can just assume that because Brad Keller is going to Japan, that he's probably going to get that. On the team. He's going to make that. Yeah. He's going to get that spot. But if you want to talk about any of the Cubs' actual prospects,
well, people are suggesting maybe Keegan gets traded, or Keegan, the mayor, Keegan Thompson, might be the guy that misses out if Keller is part of this team. We'll see. We'll see.
I just think if you're talking about any of the Cubs prospects that we have been dangled to us over the last 3 years,
Horton, Casey, Ballesteros.
I only think Alcantara is going to get the call up if there's an injury in the outfield. That's the only way that I think Alcantara will be up with the Cubs. And I feel similar with Casey, but Casey's a guy that, because of this injury in spring training, it's good to see him doing live BP this week.
Sure.
Shout out to Rich Beasterfield. But he hasn't played in any games. They are for sure going to start this guy in AAA no matter what. Even if an outfielder gets hurt in Japan, knock on wood, he's not going to be on the team opening day or stateside opening day. It's more likely to be Alcantara, and it's largely one because he's played well. He's on the 40-man, and I just think that his defense is significantly better than Owen Casey. So I think the only way that Alcantara is going to get a call up here, early on at least, would be if there is an injury. Now, as far as Horton or any of these other arms that are out there, I mean, I'm curious to see how they manage Jordan Wicks and Ben Brown going into stateside opening day, because they're going to need the depth. I could see one of them being in AAA to start the year. Personally, I would not be sending Ben Brown to AAA on opening day stateside because he's good and he makes this team better, in my opinion. But, I mean, Triantos, Ballesteros is a guy that I think would get a call-up if an outfielder got hurt as well.
Say it or Tucker. Almost specifically one of the two.
Yeah, but I think you can make – You can make an argument that even if Hap got hurt too, because then you could put Seiya in left field and you could DH Ballesteros if they so chose. Again, I feel like his bat is really close to major league ready, but I'm not some scout, so I don't know. It depends on how the Cubs feel, right? I do think we will see him at some point this year. And they've even openly said that we're going to see these guys this year. Triantos is a guy that I agree with Gary. He's most likely the one that we would see first because we don't know how Nico will be. Who knows if Birdie is good.
Well, there's already an injury on the middle of the infield.
And then, like, the whole Brujan and Workman thing, like, when it comes to stateside opening day, like, it has to be 26 guys. I don't see them keeping them both as much as I would like them to, considering how well they both have played in the spring, but I don't know if they're going to do that. So Triantos is a guy that I feel like we could probably see first after Matt Shaw. But yeah, I as we've talked about for the last couple of years, they're loaded in the outfield. And, the thing is that their starters in the outfield are good. I mean, we can confidently sit here and argue that the Cubs have a top 5 outfield in baseball going into a stateside opening day.
I think that's fair. We
So,
might do that podcast still, by the way, before the season.
So, I don't – it'll be tough. It'll be very interesting cuts to see, or options, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
Once we get to stateside opening day. But I do find it awesome to know that Wicks and Brown are going on this trip. But, again, 31 people get to go, so you get a little bit more of a leeway there. So – but Assad going on the injured list does make it interesting in terms of who they can bring, who else can make this roster. And that, to me, it just sounds like Brad Keller is like a lock at this point to make this team.
I was thinking the other day about where this team goes, and defensively, I just keep reminding myself there's 6 positions where they could win a Gold Glove. Left, center, right. Short, second, first. And all of them are realistic. All of them are realistic. I'll be stunned if they don't have at least 4 Gold Glovers this year. Who goes into a season thinking that? Defense should be a strength of this team. We've said it before, and then they disappointed us a little bit. But in the end, I think it will be a big strength of this team because I think also that the pitching potentially may be better. And to me, the first line of defense is pitching. Yeah. When I talk about defense, I'm talking about stopping the other team from scoring runs. And I think the Cubs will be better at that than they have been in a while. Yeah. I hope that's the case. All right, let's talk about this Tim Britton thing. Did anybody, if you subscribe to The Athletic, they do great work, like everybody over there. Tim Britton went through these hypothetical extensions for some of the guys that will be big free agents moving forward. The first one was Vlad Guerrero Jr. The second one, of course, was Kyle Tucker. Now, before we get into this, the first thing I want to say is I don't think he's signing an extension. That's the first thing. He's going all the way to free agency, and then we'll see if the Cubs decide if they want to really be a big boy team or if they just want to be, capable of breaking even. That's when we're going to find out. No matter what happens this season, results-wise, even if the Cubs have a great run in the postseason, when it gets time for Kyle Tucker, if he's had a good season, to pay Tucker or not pay Tucker and not be in the mix or fake being in the mix, then we'll know if the Cubs want to play with the big boys or if not. So Tim Britton was talking about these possible extensions. And if I understand what he's trying to say, then, he's not the only free agent next year. That's right, Bobby Blanco. He's suggesting that if he were to sign an extension now and a deal would include this year's contract, he was talking about an 11-year, $366.5 million extension. So he'd have $366 million over 11 years. All right, let that soak in. Think what you think about it. Think what you think Tucker might think about it and what the Cubs might think about an offer like that in a second. And we'll talk about it and Cubs history and all the other stuff and how much he may actually get. It's all coming up. But first, a word from our sponsors. Hey-o, who's thirsty? Let's head to Hooters for $6 cocktails all day, every day. Maybe an Absolute, maybe a Bacardi, single mix cocktail for just $6 every day at Hooters. Every day, all day at Hooters. Or try Hooters' legendary margarita. So sweet, so tasty, so cheap. You guessed it. It's $6 a day.
Dang.
Every day. At Hooters, originality isn't just one thing. It's everything. Hooters, always original. Give me a bunch of those honey Thai wings or the honey barbecue for the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. Ooh. I want that all day. All day. Each game, bring me a new round of those. Often imitated, never duplicated. The original Hooters has been one of a kind since 1983. Cheer on your favorite teams all day from one of their 11 Chicagoland locations. How about O'Hare, Orland Park, Schaumburg, Wells Street, to name a few. You can even order online for pickup and delivery. Check them out at originalhooters.com.
Well, those are a bunch of great deals.
$6 for a single mix cocktails.
Absolutely.
That's a pretty great deal all day, every day.
You can get great deals at Hooters.
It's their March deal.
Get great deals at Hooters. You can get great deals using Gametime when you go to Wrigley, or you want to go out to the few games that are left at Sloan Park this year. Gametime has you covered, my friends. I got this new thing called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. I always say this: get on the red line at Argyle, ride to Addison, get off the train, and open up Gametime right before first pitch. Get the best value. Get the best value right before first pitch. It's the best thing about Gametime. Other great things about Gametime, Luke. All right, all in pricing. You toggle that feature, and it shows you the total up front, which means that they won't give you a bait and switch. Which is the worst. It is the absolute worst. Gametime does not do that. They will give you the total all up front if you toggle that feature. All right, no surprise fees. They have a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you can see exactly where you're sitting. You do this not only for games at Wrigley Field or Sloan Park, but just anything. Any event that you're going to, all right? And then they have the lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with your purchase, is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry with Gametime ticket coverage. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download Gametime, the Gametime app today. Create an account and use code CHGO for $20 off that first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code CHGO for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Thank you. By the way, I'm sitting here, and what time is it now? 2:00. I haven't had lunch. I had a little snack at breakfast. My stomach is going to eat itself. I wish Hooters would just show up right now with some of those honey Thai.
That Hooters read
some of
made
the
you
I like the drummies. I've been thinking about the drummies, and I'm thinking to myself, I could eat my hand right now. I'm so hungry. And we have a meeting after this. So, Cody, if you see me, scrounging in the cabinets before we go to this meeting afterwards, you know why.
I brought these pizza bites that I made learning.
Oh, way to rub it in.
I brought these pizza bites that I learned how to make thanks to TikTok. I'm going to eat them at our meeting. So I'm sorry.
I got trail mix in my backpack.
How evil is
We're
that?
We're a team effort.
Right now, I'd eat those Lysol wipes off that table if I had to.
That I'm not.
My wife wouldn't let me, but I'd try. If they had any kind of nutritional value, I'd eat a Lysol wipe. And don't try that at home. You didn't hear that from me.
Anyway, I see some people in the chat. It's very interesting. I'm looking forward to see how Kyle Tucker plays, and this is going into what the chat is saying. There's some
talking
there's
about
some
the
back and
Britain
forth
article.
about Kyle Tucker, like the good, the bad, like the trade. Cam Smith lighting it up in spring training.
A lot of spring stats in the chat right now.
Yeah, a lot of spring stats. Listen, Kyle Tucker is far and away the best player on the Chicago Cubs. Full stop. He is the best player, and he will be the best player on this team. I have no doubt. And if he's not, then I have some serious concerns. And then, yes, we can talk about the Cam Smith trade. Do I want to talk about the Cam Smith trade? No, I really don't. I promise you. I really don't. Because I would love for that trade to just be a win-win for both. Cam Smith go on, be great. The Cubs extend Kyle Tucker sometime in the season, or if he goes to free agency and you win a bidding war for him, right? That's a best-case scenario for me because I'm not going to root against Cam Smith. I think he's going to be awesome. All right, I watched him hit all those homers in low A or whatever it was last year, right? But it will all come down to whether it's in season and he loves Chicago and he decides to skip free agency, which no one believes will happen. Luke clearly doesn't. I don't really think it's going to happen.
I don't.
A guy like me can get real delulu and hope, pray a little bit. I'll get on my knees in front of the marquee and pray. All right. I'll send emails to Tom if that's what it's going to take. Right. So it's most likely going to go to December, free agency, winter meetings. Me and Luke be sitting in this studio breaking down every single day. Day one, Kyle Tucker being a free agent. Day two, if Kyle Tucker being a free agent, hasn't been signed by the Cubs. It will be absolutely exhausting. I promise you, it will be because I'm already exhausted. So the point of this little tangent that I'm going on is just enjoy that Kyle Tucker is here for right now.
That's fair.
It is March, and they haven't even played a game yet.
It's all we have.
All right?
It might be 1 year, might be all we have.
Right.
So enjoy every at-bat.
For right now, at least, just enjoy it. Just enjoy it right now. That's all I'm asking. Just enjoy the fact that you have a top 20 player in baseball on your team. Thank you. Anyway.
Very excited to see if he hits like 200 in April, that Cubs fans will be like, he's worth 150 million. Yeah. And then when he hits 350 in June, he'll be worth 700 million. The swings and the money is going to be really fun. It's almost like a Schwano meter.
For Kyle Tucker. That's when you're like, extend him when he's hitting 200.
That should be the Friday 120 Club sign. What he's worth this week.
I don't think the Cubs would like that.
I don't think they'd like it either. What Cody's saying basically is it's like having the best birthday cake and being mad that you can't have that best birthday cake every year.
Yeah.
But that's what we want.
And I totally understand anyone who has the anxiety about that whole situation because I'm right there with you. But I'm trying to be in the moment and I'm trying to enjoy what should be a fun season. That's all I'm really trying to say. If you want to be pessimistic about the Cubs extending Kyle Tucker, or maybe he's just not that good, which if you look at the numbers, I don't know why anyone would think that he isn't good. Maybe he won't hit as well as at Wrigley Field as he did Minute Maid Park or whatever it's called these days. I don't know. We're all going to watch it play out. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're not the only ones who think he's a top 20 player in baseball. You could look at all the lists that all the big national talking heads are putting out there about Kyle Tucker. All right. So based off what I've seen, and you look at his Fangraphs or Baseball Reference page, this guy has been an absolute stud for the last 5 years. And I'm excited to watch him play at beautiful, historic Wrigley Field in the white home pinstripe unis. Throw on the little legendary blue alternates. And for God's sakes, Tom, bring the regular alternate blues with the white pinstripe uniforms that they've been wearing in the spring. Bring them back to Wrigley.
Boy, we got off on a tangent.
I did not mean to go on this tangent. I'm just like, I'm trying to tell people to enjoy what we have in Kyle Tucker, because outside of Chris Bryant, there hasn't been as good of a player in the last 10 years.
And don't ever run out of a chocolate malt. They ran out of soft serve once last year at our takeover, and I was not happy. Soft serve machines were down. Somebody in the chat, go back like one more full page. Somebody was talking about the CBA with it started with Luke, and here it is, Terry E. Tom wants to get to the CBA. He's praying for a salary cap and an international draft. He's not going to sign a big deal right now because he doesn't want to get stuck with a mega deal right now. So again, Britton is throwing out these numbers, and he's not saying it's a fair deal. He's just, this is what he's calculated. $366.5 if he were to sign an extension right now for 11 years. Here's why I'm saying there's a 0.0000000000000000% chance this is happening, okay? The Cubs' most expensive contract ever right now is still Jason Hayward, 8 for $184 in total money. 184, that's 10 years ago. 10 years ago, they signed their total money highest at $184 million. Do you know in baseball history, the Cubs are not even in the top 40 of total money deals? They don't even have a deal in that. Hayward doesn't even make the top 40 most expensive deals in baseball history. 41 more before you get to Jason Hayward's deal. 28 more for AAV if you're talking about Dansby. Okay? Dansby at 25.2 AAV for $177 million. The Cubs haven't touched $200 million yet. Kyle Tucker's going to make way more than $200 million, and he's not going to settle for that now. So both parts of it I find totally unrealistic. The 11 years, when it happens, I'll believe it.
Yeah.
They've never gone above 8, which they did for Hayward, and they probably still regret it.
Can I
and
play?
They've never gone above 200, which the 8 part, okay, I can make an argument for it if you really want to. The $200 million part, it's time to step up and play ball with the big boys.
Sure. Can I play devil's advocate?
Sure.
With you?
Sure.
Against you, I guess?
And my facts might not even be right. I'm just throwing them out there.
What have we always said about Jed Hoyer? That he's like risk averse. And
yes, and I don't even think this is a Jed thing.
Well, no, this is definitely an ownership thing, right? But Jed makes this trade, and I said this back in December, that he would not make this trade if he didn't think that they would have it, that they wouldn't try.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's been so risk averse the majority of his time with the Chicago Cubs as president of baseball ops, and so much to where it's been annoying in many ways because they've passed on so many dudes. They haven't traded guys early enough. You've liked to bring that up many times, right? If Jed Hoyer made this move, just I guess in many ways to quote unquote save his job or to go all in for 1 year, it just isn't the Jed Hoyer that I have grown to be very frustrated with over the last 5 years or 4 years, whatever. It just isn't a Jed move. He clearly, they took him in the first round. They loved Cam Smith, right? They made the trade for Paredes, all this. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just putting out the other side of the spectrum of, does Jed Hoyer make this trade if he doesn't think that they're not going to be in the bidding war for him in December? And all things historically, the last 5 years point to no, they won't. But the team organizationally, all across the board, is in a complete different spot than in 2019. So I'm just saying, for the sake of conversation, that this is what's giving me some sort of hope that there is a world where this happens down the road, because I just don't think Jed Hoyer would have made this move. He's never operated in a way to save his job. He's never done anything like that. So I stand by what I said in December, and if it goes the way that we're all fearful of, I will be the first one to say I was wrong, and I will be the first one to sit here and for sure hammer down my frustration with this ownership group and everything. I promise you. But that's what's given me some sort of hope that they will get something done down the road. I understand the whole CBA thing that Terry mentioned in the chat. Absolutely. I totally get it. But I just don't see Jed Hoyer making this trade knowing that they're not going to bring him back beyond 2025. I just don't see it with the way Jed Hoyer has operated in the last 4 years.
Jed's job is probably only in question if they don't make the playoffs. If Kyle Tucker doesn't have a good season, that's not going to be and the Cubs make the playoffs, which seems like I don't know how those two things coexist, but if that were to happen, he's still going to be here.
Yeah.
If they make the playoffs, he's still going to be here. You're not going to fire the guy after he makes the playoffs. So he would have to have a bad season. He wouldn't get there. If Kyle Tucker goes out and hits 40 tanks and is in the MVP conversation, how are the Cubs going to look at their fan base and say, we aren't going to have the best offer for this dude? That's what I want. I know we're fast forwarding past a whole season of Cubs baseball, but as you watch the games this season, starting a week from today in Japan, watch every Kyle Tucker at bat and play he makes in right field. And if he is an MVP level guy, how could they tell you they're not going to outbid everybody else? I see people talking about the $600 million offer that Vlad Guerrero wants. I don't think Tucker's that, and I don't think he's asking for that. That
was over 15 years.
Yes, that's just an opinion. As for the suggested hypothetical extension of 11 years, 366, averaging $35 million a year, I'm telling you right now that if the Cubs see a great season from Kyle Tucker and they were somehow in the mix for that deal halfway through the season and said no, I would smash my head into a brick wall. That's how frustrated I would be by it, because that would be such an affordable deal for a player of that caliber in what is now, today, Major League Baseball, whether you like it or not. Yes. If you don't, get rid of the team. That's the way baseball has gone.
That's the market.
That's a crazy affordable deal if he's a really good player. Now, if he's struggling, you can look at it and say, well, good thing they didn't do it. Fine.
That's in hindsight, though.
And that's in hindsight. If they play this out halfway through the season and he's an all-star and he's looking great, and somehow, under some miracle umbrella, he said to the team, I'll take 366, and they were like, we're going to let you hit free agency where you're probably going to make $400 million, then I would just look at this franchise and say, what are we doing? No matter how successful they were this year, you would look at them and say, what are you doing?
That's what's so frustrating, though, right? Is because you're right. Jed is risk averse. And yet at the same time, at the end of every single season, he opines about not outperforming projections. And those two things do not mesh with me. So if you're talking about a guy like Kyle Tucker, who let's just say he's an all-star, let's say he leads him to the playoffs, we're talking about cost certainty. We're talking about track record and resume. It really doesn't get any more clean-cut or airtight than that. And then it really turns into something else. And then you're asking the question, of the 11 years, $366 million, what are the Cubs most afraid of? Are they afraid of the 11 years? Yes. Are they afraid of the AAV? Are they afraid of the 366?
Yes, I think they're afraid of all three, which is why I don't think it will happen. But
I think they're more afraid of the years.
The 11 years scares them for sure. It does.
That is the number one thing that they're afraid about. I don't think it's the money. I really don't think it's the money.
I think Tom Ricketts said that before Cubs convention, that the years is the one that really gets them. In this hypothetical from Tim Britton, it would be you're including this year's deal, so the extension would really be 10 more years at $35 million a year. So it'd be like $350 million for the next 10 years. Yeah. Is that a lot of money? Yes, but it only puts them in the mix with what other teams have done. You're not even close. Right. Jason Hayward at $184 million. That wasn't even big 10 years ago necessarily, let alone for today.
And that was a projection signing. He didn't really have the track record that necessarily said he was worth that money. I would say that
it was expensive, but it wasn't like risking what teams are risking now to get a player. Like if you go back and look at, none of those teams regret it. Bryce Harper, you think the Phillies regret Bryce Harper?
No.
Absolutely not.
Padres regret Machado? No.
None of them do.
Yankees regret Garrett Cole? I mean, he's given them a bunch of great years. He's older now. He can have Tommy John, whatever.
The Cubs shouldn't be 42 on the list.
No. So,
anyway.
Tim Britton did this article because he did another article that had to do.
And it wasn't just about Tucker. It was about a lot of the guys that are coming up to free agency.
I think in that article, he had done something related to free agents. Free agents.
Yes.
And these are talking about all guys going into free agency.
Yeah.
Who have 1 year left.
At the age. So. He was comparing him to like hitting the market as Machado hit the market. And who was the other player? He had him between two players, Machado and
Vlad?
I don't think it was Vlad. Anyways, it's an interesting article. Give it a check out. I'm not sure that I believe that there's any possibility or way the Cubs go the route that is talking about, but
yeah,
it's interesting to mull over what would the Cubs find wrong with that. I don't think the player's taking that deal, and I don't think the team is taking the deal that's suggested in that, which is not good. So like Cody said, let's enjoy 2025.
Well, it's enjoy 2025.
Let's enjoy 2025.
It's enjoy 2025, and then let's see what happens in December, because
that's when they sign all the big deals, by the way.
Imagine the PR nightmare that this organization would go through if they say they get to the NLCS and lose in like 5 or 6 games to the Dodgers. And you find yourself that close with this roster. You find yourself this close. So many guys outperform projections. Matt Shaw's in your rookie of the year race if he doesn't win it. You know, Dansby gives you a 4.5 to 5 win season. Happ is giving you another great season coming off last year. PCA, steals 30 to 40 bags and is giving you a Gold Glove in center field. And Tucker is doing what we've just been talking about. All these things, and you find yourself in the NLCS against the Los Angeles Dodgers, and you kind of compete. You lose in 5 or 6 games. And then you let Kyle Tucker, the guy who led your team, if you let him walk, imagine the PR nightmare. It'd be worse than that sad Friday afternoon at the end of July in 2021. It would absolutely be worse than that. It'd be a bigger PR nightmare than that, in my opinion. As much as I love those guys from 2016, it would be a bigger PR nightmare. And I'm not saying they should do things financially to avoid a PR nightmare, but this is one of those situations where it's like, do we care about winning? Do we care about sustained success? They haven't had any sustained success since 2018.
I'm willing to let it play out and see how he performs this season. But all you have to do is look at ownership and the front office and say this. Jason Hayward was 10 years ago. John Lester was 11 years ago. Soriano next year will be 20 years ago. Those are 3 of your 4 top contracts. It's time to open the bank. You can't, we shouldn't even mention Soriano. That's so long ago. 20 years.
Yeah. And at that time, 8 for 136 was a huge deal.
It was, but that was a different ownership group, a different general manager, a different time. That's when we believe that they were told from above, we're signing it no matter who it is and how much it is.
So I think
get him.
To round this all out, because Tim Britton decided to trigger us all today, it's probably not going to happen in season, but if all these scenarios that we have listed out over the last, we're about 20 minutes into this conversation. Yeah. If all these scenarios play out, it will be a major disappointment if the Cubs are not in the bidding war for Kyle Tucker in December, January, whenever next offseason. It will be very, very disappointing. And I'll be the first one to say that, I was wrong about trading for him, I guess. Like I'm open to being wrong about that, because you went and traded for a guy who's a top 20 player in baseball, and you're a big market team, and you're the last 2 years you've been on the edge of making the playoffs. This guy's supposed to be a guy who's going to put you over the top. They could have gone over the top more if maybe they had opened the bank for Max Fried, or just didn't have a philosophy of no deferrals and signed Bregman. Whatever. You were in position to be a really good team, and if that plays out and you're not in it for him in December, man, I will be as pessimistic as I've ever been on this podcast.
It's not Tim Britton's fault, but his article put a carrot above us, and we couldn't resist. The pessimist in us just couldn't resist taking the advantage of the carrot that was there.
I mean, my last kick of the horse on this one is, honestly, it would be Chicago sports historical. Yeah. That a team in Chicago sports would let a best player walk out of town the year after making the playoffs and an all-star appearance. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Letting Thomas Jones go as a running back.
That is not the same.
It's not the same at all.
No, not the same.
Not even close. I can't come up with an example.
Yeah. All right. We said we would talk about Nico's projections, so let's do it. The problem is we haven't seen Nico yet. So I don't know what to make of the projections. Like last year, he hit 273, 7 home runs, 48 RBI. 103 WRC plus, and an F. We're almost at 4, right?
Yep.
This year, the Zips projections are up and everything, but we don't know when the season's going to start.
This looks more like his 2023 season.
Right? Like it's difficult. It's difficult to say. We haven't seen him. I don't know what to expect from Nico. Do I hope he takes this next step, even though it's just what, Jed's been talking about, incremental upgrades, right? Mm-hmm. And they've done that with the roster. Well, okay, fine. You want Nico to take an incremental upgrade over last season? That's what Zips is sort of projecting. But he's going to start the season late. I hope he's ready by opening day, but I don't really see that path that much.
I think he'll be ready for opening day since the Cubs
not a week from today, obviously.
Well, yeah, stateside opening day. I think he'll be ready for that because the Cubs have openly said that's the goal. And you know how they talk. Sometimes they don't say anything at all.
Yes.
Right? So the thing is I'm expecting a little bit of a slow April, but the defense is so valuable and the base running is so valuable that I think I can get by with a slow start from Nico in April. But listen, I think the reason that a lot of fans were down on him last year, for obvious reasons, was the fact that it's not that he didn't hit homers like you wish he did a little bit more. It's just more about the fact that this guy was hitting a lot of ground balls and he wasn't, he did not hit consistently. And if you look at the numbers from last year, those numbers got inflated a little bit at the end because he had a great September, which is actually really incredible considering he played with an injury all season.
Played with an elbow, was swinging the bat with an elbow that needed surgery.
Right. He hit like 250 most of the season. And for a player like Nico, batting average does matter because he doesn't walk a ton and he doesn't have power. But that gold glove defense at second base is extremely valuable. He steals bases. He's a great base runner. And he does all the right things, right? But batting average does matter for him because of the fact that he is simply just a singles hitter. And occasionally can leg out a double or, he can hit line drives into the gaps, right? So for me, when you see 105 WRC plus, okay, just slightly above league average hitter, 60 RBIs more than last year. I can buy into that just because the lineup's deeper this year, right? And 9 homers, whatever. But 275, that's where he needs to be. In 2023, he hit around 270 to 280 most of that season, and he was unarguably in 2023 one of the leaders of that team. Him in that 1 or 2 spot in 2023 was a little bit of a lightning rod for them at the top of the lineup. And because he hit, it was okay to put him at the top of the lineup, and they also didn't really have anyone else. Maybe you could have put Hap up there, whatever. That's not the point. But they need 2023 Nico Hoerner to be back, and a healthy Nico Hoerner I think, can do that. And it's not like he's old. He's very much in the mid-20s. Prime of his career, right? And listen, he's going to be a free agent after 2026. This guy's got a lot to prove still and a lot to play for. And while I'm expecting a little bit of a slow start in April, I can see him turning it on going into May and all of that. And I know one thing's for sure, and I said the same thing about Dansby Swanson. The defense will be there. The defense will be there. The base running will be there. Can this guy be a 105 WRC plus, a guy who can get on base for you, set the table for some of your big hitters, and just be a productive bat? I believe that he can do that along with giving you gold glove defense. So I can buy into these. It's not like you're exceeding projections in some massive way. He's a 4-win player. He has been a 4-win player.
That's a good baseball player.
Yeah. He's a really good baseball player. He's considered by many outlets a top 10 second baseman in baseball for a reason. It's largely because of that defense, base running, stuff like that. Does all the right things. So here's what you said though about, no spring training, coming off the injury and stuff. Yeah, it does give me a little bit of concern.
I also look at Nico and I think to myself, we go through these guys and we've talked about them all offseason, whether it's Ian Happ, Seiya Suzuki, Dansby Swanson, Nico Hoerner. Let's just take those 4 players. All 4 are good baseball players. Okay? They're maybe not superstars, but all 4 are good baseball players who are not perfect 5-tool guys. They're not superstar players, They have some sort of flaw or something that you would like to be slightly better, but all 4 are good baseball players. When I see the chat and I see Twitter getting mad at players, and don't get me wrong, every player on that team, I've said many times, I wish Nico hit for more power. That's who he is. But because the Cubs have won 83 games the last 2 years and didn't try the year before that, what the Cubs have done is forced onto their players this irrational anger from other fans. Like, fans are, it's such a split group of people. People either, well, if I go up to 5 people on the street, 5 people will tell you they love Ian Happ, they love Nico Hoerner, they love Dansby Swanson, and they love Seiya Suzuki. And the other 5 will just be like, he does this, he does that. You'll have 5 angry and 5 happy, and there's nobody in the middle anymore. It's social media, for one, obviously, but it's also what the Cubs have done with this mediocre mid-franchise that they have rolled out to us for the last handful of years. And until that changes, you won't see that love that you had for the golden era players, where it was just like, even if they did something wrong, you were like, yeah, but that's my guy, right? They had flaws too, but it was, that's my guy. We don't get that because the team in general has been meh.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right on that. And that's why I feel like I'm going to the ends of the earth every year defending Ian Happ. And same thing with Dansby Swanson. Of those 4 guys that you mentioned, though, Hoerner, Swanson, Happ, and Seiya, I'm willing to go out on a limb and say that 2 of those guys make the All-Star team this year.
Which 2? Stay tuned for a future CHGO Cubs podcast presented by Toyota. I think that's a possibility. Like, who would be... Tucker always has a shot at an All-Star. Where would other All-Stars come from on this Cubs lineup? A week away from real Major League Baseball, the Cubs and Dodgers.
Savor the week we have
starting the real baseball season for Major League Baseball.
Yeah, for you guys, read a book or something, take a walk, because after that, it's game on, right?
For your mental health, savor what left of the offseason that we have, if you want to call spring training the offseason still. Just savor it. I promise you. Just savor it.
And just think how much better they could be with Matt Chapman, William Workman says.
Oh, yes.
My God.
Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast. We're back at 1:30 tomorrow. Probably have more information on the team that is flying to Japan. Either way, we're going to have fun at 1:30. Check us out then. Until then, thanks for watching and fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.